Empathy is one of the most sacred qualities a human can carry. It's the bridge between hearts, the silent understanding that says, I feel you, even when you can't explain yourself. In its highest form, empathy becomes healing, not because it fixes others, but because it holds them with presence, with compassion, with grace. But what happens when something sacred is seen not as a gift, but as a weakness? What happens when empathy becomes a tool that others learn to exploit? This is the shadow side of kindness, and it's time we brought it into the light. People who manipulate often don't use force. They don't need to. Why be aggressive when emotional softness can get you what you want more effectively? They study emotion the way a surgeon studies anatomy, not to heal, but to control. They observe what opens you up, what makes you give more, forgive quicker, doubt yourself just enough to stay in their grip. And empaths, in their natural desire to understand others, often extend grace before they extend discernment. They assume that everyone feels as deeply, cares as sincerely, and means what they say. This is where the trap begins. Sometimes kindness is used as camouflage. Emotional manipulators are rarely cold. They are warm in all the right ways. They're good at appearing vulnerable, at showing flashes of pain that make you want to lean in, soothe them, stay close. But that vulnerability often isn't real. It's strategic. It shows up just in time to keep you from walking away. Just in time to make you question your instincts. Just in time to blur the line between love and obligation. And so you stay, you listen, you give, you absorb. Not because you're weak, but because you're wired to care. In spiritual terms, this is what happens when compassion becomes untethered from clarity. As the philosopher G.I. Gurdjieff once warned, unconscious good is more dangerous than conscious evil. When we give our empathy without discernment, we allow it to be used not for healing, but for manipulation. There is a difference between carrying light and leaking it. When you are deeply empathetic, you must learn not only how to hold energy, but how to guard it. Not with walls of fear, but with boundaries made of wisdom. This is where emotional and spiritual maturity must meet. To walk a path of light, you cannot afford to be naive. You must know how to recognize when kindness is being used as a tool, not to build connection, but to create control. Manipulators often weaponize guilt. They'll remind you of how much they're trying. They'll say they didn't mean to hurt you. They'll turn their apology into a performance. And you, being tuned into human suffering, will feel the pain in their voice, not realizing that it's often just another thread in the web they're spinning. But real healing never comes from bypassing truth. And true spiritual connection never asks you to betray your own intuition in order to preserve someone else's comfort. The philosopher Krishnamurti once said, "It is no measure of health to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society." In the same way, it is no measure of love to keep offering empathy in relationships where it is used against you. Your emotions are not flaws, but they must be trained, not to become hard, but to become wise. Discernment is not the opposite of empathy. It is empathy's guide. When you marry compassion with intuition, when you listen not just to the words, but to the energy behind them, you begin to notice what's real and what's rehearsed. So if you are someone who feels deeply, who loves with your whole heart, who wants to see the best in others, let that be your strength, not your downfall. Don't shrink your empathy, but learn to refine it. Ask, is this love or is this a pattern? Is this connection or is this control? Am I choosing this or am I being emotionally led into it? You do not need to harden your heart. You only need to honor it. You are allowed to care and still walk away. You are allowed to feel for someone and still protect your peace. You are allowed to say, I understand your pain, but I won't abandon myself in the process of holding it. Empathy is sacred, but it is not meant to be given away without consciousness. It is not kindness to offer your light to someone who is only looking for warmth to feed their ego, not to grow in truth. Let your empathy become a spiritual force, guided, grounded, and protected, because you deserve to be in spaces where your softness is cherished, not used. So if you've ever felt like your kindness was used against you, if your empathy became a doorway instead of a boundary, know this: it doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. It means you loved with depth. But now it's time to love with wisdom. Honor your heart, not just by opening it, but by learning who is worthy of its light. Because the more conscious you become with your empathy, the more radiant and protected your presence becomes. And that is what true power feels like: soft but sovereign, loving but awake. If this message spoke to something deep in you, if it brought clarity, or even just a moment of recognition, I invite you to stay connected. Give this video a like if it resonated. And if you want more content like this, grounded in truth, intuition, and spiritual discernment, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you never miss what your soul might need to hear next. Until then, protect your energy, trust your knowing, and keep walking your path with open eyes and an awakened heart. I'll see you in the next one.